Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tom, otherwise known as Striking, here in the digital media world. So glad to be bringing you the DYOR Live from the YouTube Shorts platform. Trying something new today to get the news out that you want to hear that may affect your trading, your fun days in crypto, and whatever's going on in the crypto world. Needs to be understood and parsed so you get it. We talk about big topics here a lot on DYOR Live. So I'm going with this without my co-host Pedro. To talk a little bit about the news that happens. As you can see over my shoulder here, what has happened, ladies and gentlemen? Veto. Joe Biden came through as promised and vetoed the SAB 121 law that was passed by bill that was passed by Congress. Let me try and get rid of this here. U.S. President Biden vetoes resolution overturning SEC guidance. Joe Biden said he would veto the resolution before the House or Senate even voted on it, and he came through it as promised and vetoed it. U.S. President signed a veto of House Joint Resolution that would have repealed the Securities Exchange Commission's Staff Accounting Bulletin, SAB 121. It's a controversial piece of accounting guidance. Basically what it does, distill it right down into, it makes banks and other financial institutions hold your crypto that you put with them on their balance sheets instead of in a custodial account not part of the bank. So in case the bank goes bankrupt or it gets liquidated, you lose all your funds. If it's held in custody by someone else or by a trust fund or something like that, you don't lose your liquidity. You don't lose your crypto and that type of stuff. So that's what's going on with that. And we just want to say that Joe Biden is doing everything he can to not be reelected president of the United States. First time in ages. I think this may be the first time for a non-ceremonial bill to pass both houses, Senate and the House, with bipartisan support, I might add. It passed with not on a party line vote. It passed with many Republicans and many Democrats in the House, and the same with the Senate. And it's the first time that's happened in a long time. And it's a big deal for a bunch of Democrats to say, hey, we need to vote for a pro-crypto bill. And Biden, even though he probably told the party members, like, look, go ahead and do it. I'm going to veto it anyway. It'll give you cover in the election, saying, yeah, you voted for it, but that old guy. But Biden continues to do things that really impress me on how not to get elected. Big studies in the swing states, 7 key swing states in the election coming up. Ohio, Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota, Florida, Arizona. I don't have that list exactly right. But the studies were in those key swing states that 20% of the voters hold crypto. And here he is being anti-crypto. He picked another topic to drive a wedge between people voting for him and a man that likely will win, even though he's likely going to go to prison. This is America, you guys. It's the land of the free and the home of the crazy, that's for sure. Anyway, like I said, Biden came through, and his reasoning is that it makes everything less safe for people by holding the crypto in the bank instead of in a trust fund or a custody account that has no liabilities, that has no method of anyone suing them. He said this makes, the bill made it less safe for people, which of course is ridiculous. It's patently ridiculous. But that's what it is. Welcome to those of you joining us here. This is Tom with DYOR Live here, bringing you the crypto news of the day. Our normal show, DYOR Live, is a weekly talk show, but we're trying a little YouTube shorts here. Going on about President Biden's veto of House Joint Resolution overturning the SEC's SAB 121 bill. But that's just not one thing. They want to keep in mind that the Operation Choke Point 2.0 that was put on by the government into crypto is not going away here. Even in New York tightens customer service regulations for crypto companies. What they're saying is that you have to now, on each cryptocurrency inquiry for customer service, you have to keep metadata, you have to keep notes about it, and whether the inquiry was resolved or not. This is a good thing. Generally, it's a good thing because you want better customer service. But they're forcing the companies to do it, even though I think only 2 crypto companies operate in New York. The rest of them say that place is a stinkhole. It's anti-crypto right now, and so we'll be back when you get a new administration in New York. And so the Operation Choke Point 2.0 continues down even at the state level, which is not good. Even this week with the president vetoing things, the staff accounting bill 121 for the SAC, the state of New York comes out and says we're tightening the screws too on crypto companies. Even though they're starting to allow some crypto companies to start working in New York, most are saying, look, there's a big world out there. We'll go after the rest of the world first before we try and mess with New York. Let's see. First time doing this little setup. As we know, the first time I do anything on DYOR Live, we get a little... Oh yeah, and the other news of the day, CZ reports to prison. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Binance's CZ has reported, well, not Binance's CZ, the ex-CEO of Binance, CZ, has reported to prison in California to start his 4-month, not Seifu. I love it. Not Seifu at all. Oh, Mayor of Akron, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it. I'm not used to using this comment section on this. Let's go, Brandon. The funny thing is that is a slam against Joe Biden. In Chicago, the mayor is actually called his first name is Brandon. So that the support line is "Let's go, Brandon." So you have everyone running around Chicago saying "Let's go, Brandon." It's really funny. It's really funny. But thanks for joining us, Mayor Akron of Chicago, and all of the rest of you that are joining us here. CZ's going to the joint. He reported to prison in California. Begins his 4-month prison sentence after pleading guilty for enabling money laundering. He really made a big mistake. Note, he still owns Binance. He's still the largest shareholder of it. Holds the keys to the wallets in which it's Bitcoin, billions of dollars of Bitcoin is in. But let's face it, he blew it. He just blew it completely. He blew it in such a way. I mean, all he had to do was not enable money laundering. People not from the U.S., they complain about the U.S., but they don't understand that our law enforcement, while overbearing sometimes, ultimately gives us a good level playing field for businesses to operate, and that's important. When you have a fair level business climate with fair rules and regulations, and there's corruption, of course. Even the former head of the Navy just got indicted for corruption. But they got him. When you have a fair business playing field, it benefits companies and everybody. And it also benefits the credit markets. And when you have a good and active credit market, then businesses can flourish. And your economy can grow basically without any burdens. It grows as it needs to. And that's important. But CZ blew it. Let's see if I can. CZ blew it. Zhang's legal trouble started when U.S. authorities charged him with multiple violations related to Binance operations. These included allegations of unregistered security offering, market manipulation, failure, and anti-money laundering protocols. Really, the only thing the Justice Department had on him was the anti-money laundering, because they had his emails that said just ignore the U.S. laws. We're not going to worry about them. And you can't do that. You can't do that. I mean, if they weren't operating in the U.S. And they were banning their customers from operating, doing the best they could to keep people from the U.S. operating in their countries, that's one thing. But they didn't do that. He actively operated in the U.S. and avoided U.S. laws, which doesn't work with the money laundering people because those laws are draconian. And in fact, that's a whole topic for other shows, is the anti-money laundering laws, because they started out just trying to get the really wealthy tax cheats and the drug couriers and those types of things in the 70s with a $10,000 threshold for reporting. That same threshold is $96,000 now if indexed for inflation. So the government went from tracking everything from about $100,000 down to under $10,000 thinking that you're an anti-money laundering guy, to the point where it affects used car sales. Hey, Seuss, hey, there we go, talking about used cars. Hey, Seuss, you sell cars under 10,000. Do you ever sell them over 10,000 and someone pays in cash and you have to report the financial transaction? Always a good question for you. He's pitching forever token. Forever. Anyway, CZ going to the joint for doing what he wasn't supposed to do, but he'll be out in 4 months and he'll have billions of dollars, and all will be good. He's going to go live in Dubai and everything's going to be good for CZ. He only has to pay a $50 million fine. His reported net worth is $33 billion. See, Jesus, this is my problem with any anti-money laundering laws. Here you are, just a used car dealer in California, and the laws that were set up in 1972 or 73, in the threshold of $10,000, was set up to catch, like I said, wealthy tax cheats, drug dealers, that type of stuff. People trying to live in a cash economy, which it was in the 1970s, but not just a cash economy for drugs and wealthy stuff. I mean, everyday life in the 70s was a cash economy. So it was meant to catch those high-level tax cheats. And now it affects a random car dealer has to comply with laws meant for that. And that's a compliance burden that shouldn't be part of the United States' economy. It subtracts a percentage of the economy, it wastes money, it doesn't give the government any benefit. It just goes into a database, nobody looks at it until they want to put the hurt on someone, and then they use it as evidence. There's a famous story going around about the kid that mowed lawns all summer and made $12,000 and went to buy a car. Paid $12,000 cash, and they reported him, and the government came and said, seize the car. because he paid cash and it was suspicious, and he had to justify where he got the money. I'm sure his name was Oscar Ramirez or some South American, Hispanic or Latino name, and so they thought he was a drug dealer. Kid was I don't know, I think he was a 16-year-old kid. It's ridiculous. So buy a car for $999 and buy the 500-mile warranty in a separate transaction for $2,000. Anyway, CZ going to the joint for breaking the law. Bad plan for him. Very bad plan for him. What else is in the news here? Oh yeah, I got a couple other good topics to talk about. While the U.S. is still putting the hurt on people here in Operation Choke Point, over in the UK, whose record in crypto regulation has been very wobbly. It looks like a sine wave. The SEC Commissioner Hester Pierce just came out and said we should join the UK's new sandbox regulation and play area for crypto. Basically what the UK is saying that they want to do is set up a sandbox in regulatory terms, is something that says we know all these laws exist that regulate you, but we're going to create under this law a sandbox, a 6-month window where companies can do any of these operating activities and not comply with any other laws, just comply with these laws to see if it works or not. And they can't get really big, and they can't try to get the whole population involved in it. It has to be a small trial sample of things. But they're allowed to try new products. They're allowed to evaluate how they work without worrying if they broke some SEC law or something like that. And then the government comes in at the end of the time, looks at it, how it worked, and says, hey, this worked well. Let's create the actual regulations to allow this to happen. And these didn't work. This didn't work at all, and so let's not let that happen. It works in almost every instance. In fact, on this show, I had a guy named Jimmy Lenz on, who is the engineering school manager, financial products engineering school manager. I don't know what his title was. He's in charge of the engineering school at Duke University's and their financial master's program. And he was on talking about how we should establish a sandbox here in the U.S. The UK went and did it, and they did a very good job of it. They did a very good, or they're implementing it. And Hester Pierce, the SEC commissioner that was appointed by a Republican and is always pro-crypto, said we should join their program. We should join their program. In other news, is that why I'm only allowed to withdraw $10,000 a day from Binance? Yes, it is. If you have that problem, Jesus, then good for you. Good. If you have that problem, good for you. Going on to another topic here. Here it is. Coinbase accuses the SEC of purposeful effort to destroy crypto. Legal filing yesterday, America's leading crypto exchange accused the SEC of trying to snuff out crypto by refusing to implement new rules. The SEC's retort has always been, we don't need new rules. All the crypto fits into the stock market rules, which we all know is crap. It's not true at all. Crypto is designed to be different than the stock market. It was designed to be able to trade with each other directly. It was trade to have an instant settlement, not have to use a third party to settle it. It was designed not to have anyone else custody it. You can choose to have someone else custody it, or you can choose to have it yourself in your own wallet. Hold on, I just got to check a few things here. And so it's been a long, obviously a long road with Coinbase and Gary Gensler, to the point where Coinbase sued under the principle called writ of mandamus. And that is a principle in which the government is supposed to do something, and they're withholding its efforts and withholding doing it. Even though by law they're supposed to do it, citizens can sue the government and say, hey, you're supposed to do that. You can't not do your duty. And the court enforced it against the SEC, but the SEC's answer still was, go fuck yourself. And there wasn't really much they could do. So anyway, the chief legal officer is taking the opinion that, hey, we're going to push back against Coinbase and really put the screws to them to get them to implement new crypto rules. I mean, the idea is that we don't need rules, right? That we can just operate crypto exchanges just however we want. But then you end up with things like FTX. So you need some rules, you need some oversight of large financial organizations so people don't get screwed. Some oversight is not bad. What the SEC doing is not right. The Coinbase's lawyer said this pattern of conduct is a purposeful effort to destroy an industry by demanding the impossible and prosecuting companies that fail to achieve it, Coinbase said. Coinbase's lawyer, Patrick Doherty, was on our show here a couple months ago. In it, which he used the famous line, he called up the SEC, he said, we want to register. They said, all right, let's get you registered. Let's have a meeting about it. I don't know whether it was in person or virtual, whatever. And he goes in to talk to them, and they say, get out. Get out. Get out. Like the internet meme, out. And he famously said on the show, he said, I got rug pulled by the SEC. And so what the SEC then went back and said, oh, now we're going to prosecute Coinbase. So the SEC is trying to have their own way. Clearly, they're trying to punish people. And I bring this up because an interesting thing happened over the last week in the U.S., which was really interesting, and it may have a decision that it's in another industry and likely bleed over into cryptocurrency. This article can go on forever about this, but let me talk about that really quick. In a gun case, I shouldn't say in a gun case, but the NRA sued the state of New York. NRA sued the state of New York on a free speech thing. You think, well, guns aren't free speech. That's the Second Amendment in the U.S. Aha! But the state of New York, through their insurance bureau, sued or put pressure on companies that did business with the NRA to say, hey, look, and one particular insurance company was doing business with the NRA, and they said, look, we found some inconsistencies in your reporting. In your New York insurance company, we may take action against you unless you stop doing business with the NRA. And so they put pressure on it. They said, we're going to prosecute you for this, but we'll overlook that if you do that. And the NRA sued the Commissioner of Insurance. Supreme Court, it went all the way up to the Supreme Court. The initial court said, yeah, you can't do that. Then the appeals court, I think it's the second district appellate courts, said, no, the person's just doing their job, that's fine. And then went up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled 9-0. It's very rare for the Supreme Court to rule 9-0 on anything. But usually when they do, it's on a free speech thing. And what the Supreme Court said is, here, I'll just read the summary I've highlighted here. It says, ultimately, the critical takeaway is that the First Amendment prohibits government officials from wielding their power selectively to punish or suppress speech, Justice Sotomayor added. Now he's like, hey, Tom, this is free speech, not crypto. Well, crypto, the ability to spend money, the ability to write contract code and publish it on the internet, and the ability to spend your money however you want has been ruled as free speech in our country. That's right. In the past, I'll can scroll down, but there'll be other YouTube channels with actual Supreme Court constitutional attorneys arguing this one. But we have an interesting thing here, a 9-0 thing that says, no, the government cannot selectively go after people, topics, companies, and use their power to suppress their activities. And they're doing that against Coinbase. So I thought I'd bring that to your attention because we're going to see a fight here. And ultimately, since the court ruled 9-0, if it gets to the Supreme Court, it'll get ruled, it would likely get ruled that the government is restricting free speech by telling us how we can use our money. Very interesting. Which would basically prohibit the programming part of central bank digital currencies, because then that would be a free speech thing. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining me for this little 20-minute show here. I really appreciate it. Thought I'd give this a try to see what kind of viewership we can get some topics out. Jesus says, I thought that was normal with the government. I'm talking about the U.S. Says, I thought that was normal with the government, but the Supreme Court just ruled, or said, nope, can't do that. 9-0. That's free speech. So I think this Supreme Court decision will be used over in crypto to say, this doesn't mean you get to do whatever you want. Just saying that the SEC can't selectively go against certain people, certain companies, or certain industries and restrict their free speech. And operating as an exchange is not free speech. But just the concepts that they're trying to get done is how people use their money, how we spend it, how we use it, does fall into that category. Sounds like Peru here now. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I got for you today. As you know, I'm very good at talking a lot. Get my music going here. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. DYOR Live. As they always say, my name is Tom, otherwise known as Striking, here in the digital media world. Thank you for joining us on this short little episode of Getting the News Out. I'll see you next week, so be there.